Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Courtney Rich with Cake by Courtney, and today we are making one of my favorite treats from my book, Bake by Courtney. These are my chocolate chip caramel bars. So think chocolate chip cookie with just a layer of caramel in between, and those are just like two of the best things ever. And what we love about this caramel that goes in the middle is it's so easy to make. So we're gonna start over at the stove. I'll show you how to make that. Then we'll dive into the cookie and how to make the bars, and it is gonna be one of the easiest, yummiest treats you're making today. To make the caramel that's gonna go between the two layers of the chocolate chip cookie bars, we're just taking wrapped caramels. You can find them at the grocery store. There's so many different kinds now, and sweetened condensed milk. We're putting these together over the stove, melting the caramels, getting that warm so it just combines really nicely, and then that's it. Turn the heat off, and we're gonna get over to the cookies. So we're gonna let the caramel just hang out on the stove. I turned the heat off, and so it's fine. It's just gonna cool down just a little bit, but it won't harden. It's still gonna have this like beautiful texture to it that is silky smooth as you bite into the cookies because we added that sweetened condensed milk. So now we're gonna do the chocolate chip caramel, like the bars that are gonna go under the caramel and on top. So to start, we're doing our unsalted butter, and that can just be not all the way room temperature, but not totally cold. Brown sugar, our granulated sugar, and we're gonna beat those first before we add our eggs and our vanilla. And at this point when you're making the cookie dough, it's okay to have the mixer, whether it's a hand mixer or a stand mixer, on a higher speed, because you do want that sugar to like dissolve into that butter to get a fluffy texture. But as we start adding some of these other ingredients, we don't need to mix as high with our mixer. So right now, yes, but then the rest of the time, pretty low speed is totally okay. There we go. We especially don't want to ever overmix once you add the flour because that overworks the gluten and that changes the total texture of your cookie, your cakes, your baked goods. So we're going next with our eggs, and we've just got 2 eggs in here and some vanilla. Got a little flavoring there. Okay. A quick stir to just combine the eggs really nicely. Doesn't need to be too long. Beautiful. All right. Now we've got our all-purpose flour, and I've got actually my baking soda in there and my salt. So those were combined. We'll add our chocolate chips in a minute. So we're just gonna stir this on the lowest setting just to combine that flour. And these really are just, I mean, such a like nostalgic flavor because you have your chocolate chip cookies, but we're taking it to the next level by adding that caramel between 2 layers of the dough. And if you love that like contrast of the sweet and the salty, grab some flaky salt and maybe pour that or sprinkle that on top once you've got all the dough in there. Okay, now I love semi-sweet or bittersweet chocolate. I actually have the bittersweet chocolate. We love dark chocolate here. My kids, Ryan, that's our jam. Even if you don't, I would still suggest the semi-sweet because you want a balance of flavors. And with the caramel being sweet, and we've got some salty, and the dough being so sweet, you're gonna really like the balance of a more bittersweet chocolate. Milk chocolate, I just feel like gets lost. Like it gets lost. It makes me so sad. I want the chocolate to stand out. And man, milk chocolate doesn't do it for me. But I get it. If you love it, you do you. We can still be friends. We can still bake together. All right. Let's get this dough off my whisk. I do usually like to take a huge bite of this, but that would be rude to do in front of you, so I'm not going to. We're gonna put our cookie dough and our caramel in a baking pan like this, 9 by 13. I like the metal for these because you do get like a little bit of more crispiness around the edge. If you don't like that, use a glass pan, but the glass might just take a little longer to bake, so keep that in mind. Okay. To line this with parchment paper, or you could just spray it with nonstick spray, I'm just gonna cut some of my edges. So back here, if I just put my 9x13 pan right on top of it, I'm gonna cut one edge right there. And then same thing over here. Try to line that up again. And then these corners, you could trace it with a pencil if you wanted to and then cut, but we're just cutting those little 4 corners there. So then when we add it to the pan, you'll see we can kind of fold the edges, bring these corners around, just like that. Bring that edge right over here. Kind of give myself a seam right there. And then same thing on this side. And look how nicely that parchment then fits right in. Okay, we're gonna put about 2/3 of the dough in the pan to get started and then just sprinkle some of the dough on top. And you'll see it kind of just starts to melt and even out as it's baking. So the bottom half, we're gonna put in the pan and like push it down and get it into like a good layer. So I'll just kind of start to sprinkle some of it out. And then again, just trying to like leave in mind that we are gonna put some of this dough on top. So I have like that much left that I'm gonna save. So now let's just press this down into an even layer. Spread it out. Layer of chocolate chip dough down, and now we're just gonna pour all this caramel right on top. Oh, look at that. Looking so gorgeous. And you know what? This is a spot too that you could add some salt. You can add it to the caramel if you wanted to add a little bit of salt to the caramel, but I think what I'm gonna do is take some of my flaky sea salt and just add it on top of the caramel too. Get a little surprise when I bite into some of the bars. Offset icing spatula, just gonna spread this out. You can use the back of the spoon too. Whatever you've got. Let's make this easy, shall we? So spread that caramel around. Aren't you getting so excited about them already? I am. And these, like, you can serve while they're still a little bit warm. You can wait till they're room temperature. You can freeze them and like reheat them later, let them sit out and get to room temperature. Depends if you want that caramel like really drippy or if you want it to be set just a little bit. So, okay, let's grab some of the dough. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just breaking it up into little pieces. Kind of reminds me like what you would do with like a peach crumble, or like not a crisp, but like a crumble where you've got the dough on top and you just sprinkle it right over. There we go. And we've got plenty, so we'll fill in the gaps, but just start to get like an even base and you'll just see we'll fill up these spots, and the dough is gonna just start to flatten out too as it's baking. So don't worry that it's like not totally flat, not totally smooth. We're not worried about that at all. We'll get these gaps filled in. Okay, I gotta look at that. Oh, I didn't add my flaky sea salt. I'm gonna grab that, put a little bit on top right now, and then we'll get them in the oven. Now, flaky sea salt is a game changer. If you really just want that little bite of that saltiness, the savory, to balance the sweetness, get the flaky salt because you really actually taste it. And to have a little bit of that texture is divine. Now we're ready to bake them at 350 for about 30 minutes. Once these came out of the oven, I wanted them to cool for about 30 minutes. We don't necessarily need them to be completely cooled to room temperature, but let them sit for about 30 minutes, I think is helpful just for serving. Otherwise it gets super messy. I realized I needed a plate here because this is not totally set, which means it's gonna be a little tricky to try to just eat from my hand right now. That first slice is always the messiest, but we're just gonna go for it. Yes, okay. This is why I want you to have them set a little bit, because it's gonna feel a little bit underdone. But we want that so it's got this like soft and chewy center. Let's dig in a good bite of that caramel. Oh, I love how that caramel like oozes out as you like dive into it. And don't worry, the top is gonna be a little bit golden brown, right? Because we're baking it for that 30, maybe 35 minutes to get the inside cooked really well. But the inside's gonna be soft, and then we got this little bit of a crunchy outside. I can't even say anything because I have so much chocolate in my mouth. You guys are gonna go nuts for these. And the caramel, this is why you want an edge piece here. The caramel kind of starts to harden on the edge, and so you get this great, really extra crunchy, crispy, caramelized texture around the edge. But then that soft and gooey center with that caramel, the chocolate chips, you're gonna be making this so many times. It's just so easy and so yummy. I hope you love it. Grab the recipe below or grab it in my book, Bake by Courtney, and I'll see you next time.